Hey everybody, I am here today on a Zoom call with Toya, and I live under a rock, so thank God Toya knew how to do this. So this is our first time working with Zoom, so thank you, Zoom. Toya and I have been in each other's lives for 16 years. Can't believe it. She
No.
moved away for a little of that time, but we have gotten back in touch, and through the years, we have always been the kind of friends that could pick up wherever we left off. And we can irritate each other, mostly me irritating her.
Most
And
definitely not me. No, I'm just kidding.
and still come back and talk through the difficult and challenging things and ask each other what we meant. And I have so appreciated this friendship. It is a joy to my heart. And I have so appreciated your grace and love, Toya.
We're not going to do that like in 2 minutes. We're not going to do that.
And I know that these are crazy times. I know that so many of us have heard different things about COVID. Y'all can see my COVID eyebrows. I told Toya I have enough for everybody. I have not had them threaded since March. And I know that with COVID-19, we have heard, oh, this is what happens, or this is what it feels like. But so many of us don't really understand or know. And unfortunately, Toya does, because the
Yeah.
COVID antivirus visited her. And I just wanted you to share what, your personal experience was. And I know we're not claiming to know everything about COVID. It's too new.
Oh, yeah. No.
Yeah. I know we're just wanting to share your personal experience, what the first few days were like for you.
So thank you first for this opportunity to chat with you on Zoom in our distance living as we know it today. I appreciate the opportunity. I would say that the first couple of days really honestly felt like normal. I now know that what I was feeling starting Father's Day were the beginning of symptoms related to COVID-19, but I was not, they didn't immediately feel like COVID. Like I didn't feel like, oh my gosh, I'm starting to have COVID symptoms. I had a headache that day, and it just felt like a sinus headache, which is completely normal for me in the summertime and, other times in the changing of seasons to have sinus issues. I have allergies. So felt that headache. And then the next day, I still felt a little bit of the headache, but again, sinus issues. I felt still myself, just with annoying headache, lingering headache. And then that was Monday. And then Tuesday, still feeling just kind of myself, but like, just don't feel great. But kind of fast forward by Thursday, earlier in the day, Thursday, I was just like, feeling a little bit more draggy. Then developed like a light cough. But again, even the cough felt like more like, oh, I have sinus drainage, and that's why I've got this little annoying cough. Still, I'm thinking it's just a sinus issue, truly. But by the evening, I would be watching TV, and I would put the throw blanket on because I was a little chilly, but I felt like I wasn't getting warm. And so by Thursday, I finally was like, you know what? Let me take my temperature, because during this kind of from Monday to Thursday, I would just feel myself, because I wasn't feeling the best. So I would be like, oh, do I have a fever? And I didn't, that's our first check, fever to the touch, right? And I know that's not the professional way to do it, but I was doing that and I didn't feel warm. So by the time Thursday evening, though, that I took my temperature, it was 103.2. And I still didn't feel warm to the touch.
Oh my gosh.
So at that point, I was like, okay. And as soon as Dorman got home, I was like, do you think this is COVID? Like, just like bombarding him with like all these questions. But that was still it. And so I was still like, okay, I'm still, okay. But after Thursday, it kind of went downhill from there with like just being bombarded with the other symptoms, the muscle aches, the nausea, the headache still. It was just being bombarded with the symptoms, but still not, it's hard to explain, still not, I guess a 911 type situation, still just very uncomfortable. But by Sunday, like out of nowhere, I had a consistent cough and I was struggling to breathe, but it was no progression. It was just like nothing and then 911. So Sunday, let me think. Excuse me. Sunday, it was probably Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. I couldn't breathe. And it got to the point where, I was talking to my parents, and they were very alarmed and, were trying to, saying, hey, you need to go to the hospital now. And I was like, no, I'm going to be okay. And while I recognized I couldn't breathe and I was really struggling, there was just a part of me that felt like I was really afraid to go to the hospital. It just felt like it was a fear about going to the hospital at night alone. I just felt like I would die there. Like, I mean, that was just basically what I felt. Like, I didn't want them to have to do anything extreme and me be alone and have to be just dropped off. Like, I just didn't want that. And it's all, like, this is all happening at the same time. Like, I have a full belief and faith in God, like that he can heal me and everything. And I didn't feel like there was nothing in my mind that was saying you're not going to survive this. But at the same time, how I was feeling was like I was dying. So that's just it's just a very strange. It was just very strange in all aspects of it, physically, and how the symptoms were manifesting. And so that Sunday night, like, it got to the point where, I was like really gasping to breathe. And I just really cried out to God. Like, I was just like, Lord, like literally every praise and worship song that I could think of that had breath in it and like God breathed for me, like I was just saying them out loud. Like, I was just whispering, Lord, you said you're the breath in my lungs, so I'm praising you for being that. Or, breathe into me, oh Lord, the breath of life, so my spirit can be whole and my soul made right. Like, I was just saying him over and over. And I was just like, Lord, if you just keep me through the night, I promise I'll go to the hospital tomorrow. Like, I was just like, breathe through me tonight, like negotiating, like, please just, because I knew like I would not make it on my own, but I just did not want to go alone. And I was even crying to Dorman, like, please don't take me to the hospital against my will. Like, please, I don't want to be there alone.
Yeah.
And so that was Sunday night, and God met me there. Like, I was pleading, and he honored, like, he came to visit me, because there is no way that, remembering how I was laboring to breathe, that I should have been able to sleep. Like, there was no way. Because even in trying to get the breath, there was the incessant coughing that, like, aggravating that. So it was those two things. Should have been no way. And it wasn't like, you can't sit up, you can't lay down, like, it's just no relief in it. And so I know he answered me in that way. And so that Monday I woke up and went to the emergency room. And God is so good. I went there. They were so, like, nobody was there at the time I went in that morning. They were so kind and compassionate and thorough and tender to me. Like, even to the point where the nurse was like, you know what? I'm not even going to poke you for an IV until I know for sure that we need to. I mean, it was just stuff like that God had just prepared, like, given me favor with them and prepared everything for me the way I needed. Because I hate needles. So, like, when she said that, I was like, praise the Lord. And so, I mean, just everything about it was what I needed, the comfort I needed. Like, I didn't go in there and they weren't treating me like a leper or anything. They were very tender and attentive. So I was just grateful for that. But then they told me then that they did chest x-rays to make sure I didn't have pneumonia, and my lungs were completely clear, praise the Lord. So I didn't have to stay there because and when they came back and they said, okay, your lungs are completely clear, you did test positive for COVID, but because your lungs are clear, we wouldn't keep you. Like, there's no reason for us to keep you here. And even in them telling me that, you could see how the kind of like the helplessness they felt, because I was still sick. And he even said, he was like, from a screen. So they didn't come back. Like, he didn't come back in after he told me I tested positive. Only one nurse actually came back in, and she was covered the same way she was covered before. But once they told me I tested positive, the access to me was limited, like, once again, the doctor popped up on the screen and was like, hello, Mrs. Hill, you did test positive. Your lungs are clear. We're not going to keep you. He was like, at this point, either people get considerably better or they get considerably worse. So if you get considerably worse, please come back. But if not, here is the things you should start doing and looking for. But you could tell, like, in his voice and just how they were talking, that, there was a sense of helplessness that they felt in knowing I'm sick and even having to tell me that I could get worse, but still sending me home. It's just like, well, kind of like, we know you're sick and we know you need help, but, we're going to have to send you home to fend for yourself. And that's just that's one of the parts of this that's just so terrible, how I had what they would consider a mild case, but the way I felt was not mild at all. Like, I was truly desperate. Like, it was terrible. There was a point where it felt like somebody was physically squeezing my gums so my teeth would fall out. I mean, just random things that were happening with my body. And even with the symptoms, because they would come in waves, they would come and go. It just felt like, almost like there was intention behind it. Like, I want you to feel like you're okay, and then I'm going to sneak up on you with this at an extreme level. I mean, just stuff like hip pains and the terrible taste in the mouth, and like not really smelling like what is in the air at the time, like its own smell is in your nose, and just a plethora of just terrible things. So that, yeah, that
That's,
was really my experience.
yeah. And you and I have talked about it already, but hearing it again, that's a lot. And
Right.
it's heavy. And my first thought was, so what were they telling you would happen to know that your symptoms were worse? Because what you're describing is really bad when I hear it. So what were they telling you to look for?
So I think for them, the worst is, from my understanding, the intention of the disease, the virus, is to attack your lungs.
Right.
So if I felt like my breathing wasn't getting better, and I felt, because there was always like congestion, but if I felt like that congestion was, when it was coming out, my congestion was clear. So that helped them see that it wasn't an infection. So, but if it became where it wasn't clear, then that was basically showing it was progressing into an infection stage, which meant that it was getting worse. And so the breathing and the onset of anything that would show an infection, and that would be like, okay, this is progressing in the wrong direction, because the fever part you really couldn't use as kind of the test, because I had a fever for like 10 straight days. And it would just go up to 103, down to 101, up to, 102, down to, 100. It never came to normal. Even during the whole 10 days, the up and down was just like down to a lower level of fever, but it was like a fever the whole time. Yeah.
Uh, that's, I can't imagine. I'd be thinking, this is worse. I need to go back. But
Yeah, it was
it's not in
so
my lungs, but this feels like everything you're
oh,
saying feels like it's so heavy and
it,
weighing you
yeah,
down.
it
Like you're not.
was. I mean, there were so many times where I just laid in the bed and cried and was like, Jesus, help us. Like, there were
Hmm.
so many times that I just was laying there crying, like, Jesus, please help us.
Hmm.
Because, like, I couldn't help myself. Like, really.
Yeah.
And there was no
What,
relief that anybody could give. Like,
right.
they had given medicine for like pain medication at the hospital, and they had given me nausea medicine to help with the symptoms, to manage some of the symptoms. And then they were like, and take Mucinex. So like the stuff you would think, because of how the symptoms were, like the severity of them, it's like, you don't have no shots or like something, like
Hmm.
I need something like, a little more severe, like better than this stuff. But it was just like, so here's this, this just basic kind of things. And it's just like, this is all we can do. So,
Hmm.
yeah, so that part, the realization, um, that it was really only God that could help me, seriously, was was a was real.
Yeah. I was just about to ask you, what about this experience would you say was your most meaningful takeaway? But it sounds like you're already telling me that.
Yeah, it's so much. Oh gosh. Like, so so weeks before, um I got sick, me and you had conversations, and I had some conversations with some other um, women in my life that were just like, like I feel there was a feeling in my heart that I was like approaching a shift in my life in a spiritual perspective. And I had said that. I was like, I just feel a shift is coming. And so so then COVID came, and I was like, now Jesus,
This ain't the shift.
right. Like say, we gonna need to spend a little eternity time chatting about why you let me get COVID. um, but at the same time, there was a moment from that Sunday where I was just crying out to God in desperation, to live and to breathe. That after that was over, that passed, I remember laying in the bed, and I don't remember like what brought me to this. It just feels like it just happened. But there was just this realization that came over me that was like, Toya, like, remember Sunday when you were crying out to me in desperation? I want that to be the posture of your life.
Mm.
And I was like, what? Like, and it was like, just like the realization in that moment that I am the only one that can help you is how I need you to live. And from that space, he had taken me to Romans 8:18, and I wasn't like up studying or doing nothing. Like I just looked at my phone at Romans 8:18, and it was like, and I'm paraphrasing, but it was like, you know what? Don't worry about this little bit of suffering, because it's not anything compared to the magnitude of what I am about to unveil in your life. And that just like, what if it was like lighting a pilot light on the stove? Like physically, my body was in a recovery process. Like physically, I was still sick, but spiritually, girl, it was like a flame just clicked on, and so much since that time. And this started like June 21st. I went to the ER June 29th. So this was, now it's almost, heading into a month since then. So this, when I'm saying just the things that God has revealed, has been happening probably since like the 5th of July, just continuous revelation to me that COVID was the vehicle that was taking me into my shift that I was expecting. But we always expect it like in a celebratory good way. And I feel the goodness of it, yet the process through it, I was like, we still got the chit chat about that. Like, I appreciate everything I am gaining from it, but like, let's talk about that, and some other things about, just the experience alone. So that's the biggest thing. It just really reset me and created such a refocus, in my life. Just Out of Hiding is my company. So, God gave me Out of Hiding, and so much about what I've been doing, even in my diligence and my heart's desire to live in that space, I just realized how, I wasn't really there completely, but His word is true in that when he says he'll perfect those things which concern you. And just understanding that this next season in Out of Hiding and in Out of my life, there were some things that I had to leave in the wilderness. Like I had to leave behind. And one of those things was just the living in a way that is that was consumed with who was for or against me, and not really living in a way that was consumed with whom I was for. That part has been such a true release for me, that realization and that revelation has just really, even in this short period of time, just ignited such a refreshing, I can't even describe it, just set the stage for so much freedom for myself and in how I execute my life and my business. It's just been great. But I had to go through COVID to get there. That's the crazy part. Just recognizing that all things work together for my good, and all means all. And I have to just trust God and know that this life I'm living, it's not about God fitting into my life. It's about me fitting into his plan. So he gets to do what he wants with it. And I'm not going to understand every part of it, but I have to trust that he desires goodness for me. So that's one of probably the biggest thing for me. And it's so much about, because I've made some really big decisions in these last couple of years that have affected my family tremendously, and have, in all cases, definitely not turned out the way I expected them to. But I was very confident in what God told me to do. But sometimes there's an aspect of us that is trying to still get the buy-in of the people we love, and the validation and the acceptance, the acknowledgement. And this experience just really is helping me, because this is continuous, right? It's just helping me to see that human desire in me, that human need in me, is not part of God's plan. He's like, I'm trying to get my glory. That human part, don't have anything to do with this. And I'm going to help you to, really focus on me. And not that those human feelings aren't valid. They are very valid. God cares about them. But he is like, in order for you to fully embrace the fullness of who I've called you to be, that part, that pursuit in that way is a hindrance. So I'm going to comfort you and show you and validate you and affirm you in different ways, so you don't pursue that from a human being. You get everything you need from me. And that, girl, that right there is just some true freedom. And like I said, it's continuous. So day to day, it's like, Lord, help me to rest in that place. Because during this time, I've also been reading Psalm 119, and
the longest
right, 175
chapter in the Bible.
Right. Not only reading it, but writing it down. Right. And that's a whole nother conversation that me and Jesus gonna have. So in that, gotten is not a word. I've received just such revelation from God, and such good things from reading it and writing it down, myself. But one of the things I can appreciate about reading it is David's transparency, girl. I love me some David. David, in one verse, literally one verse, David is like, oh God, you're so awesome. You're so great. And then the other verse, David is like, Lord, where you at? I'm in the dust. I feel so alone, and you have to read it and be like David, that was literally one verse apart. What happened? So the realization that this is a process, this is ongoing. And from moment to moment, I am going to, in my humanness, feel highs and lows, but God is there to celebrate, be celebrated in the highs. And he is also there to respond in my lows where I'm like, where you at? I'm in the dust, you know, and he accepts all of it as an offering. So
And he
that
can handle it all.
he can
I
handle it
mean,
all.
as humans, we make it like he can't, but he
Yes,
can handle the, where
yes,
are you? I'm disappointed. I don't even know if
yes,
you're here. He can
yes.
handle all of that.
And that part about being out of hiding is I don't have to have a pretense with him. I don't have
Yes.
to be super spiritual. And that's even in the feelings that I was feeling that day, you know, when I couldn't breathe, and trusting God completely, but also being very much like, I don't want to go die at that hospital. You know, all
Yeah.
of that, God can handle that. And he took all of that and came to my rescue the way I needed it. So, it's just so much that I'm getting from that experience, just in an unexpected way. But
Yeah.
it's all that I was preparing for before I got sick. It just did not happen the way I expected, for sure. At
Mm.
all. Yeah, no. So
Well, when COVID first started, someone told me that breathing exercises help. So I thought, okay, I'll do 10 Hindu squats and a day.
you
And
said
that was a
10
lot.
squats?
Yeah, 10 Hindu squats. So what you
Oh,
do is, yeah, you breathe in as your body is going down to the ground and you lift your heels up. And then when you're coming up, you breathe out, you exhale. And so if you Google it, you'll see what a Hindu squat is.
yeah, just
But
in your description, I'm not doing that.
and then, and then, you know, I read that, oh, these breathing techniques, like, you know, you breathe in for 7 seconds and then hold your breath for 7 seconds and then you exhale for 7 seconds. So trying to do all that. But
And I
I
was
am
doing those breathing treatments. So my uncle is works in healthcare, and I don't know his title, but he is the person that they call in when someone has respiratory things that helps them breathe, like a respiratory
mm,
therapist, I think it is.
therapist. Hmm.
Yes, so that's what he does. So he called me FaceTime and was like, "Okay, niece, this is what you do." And my parents dropped off one of those breathing things, aspirators, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hmm.
Yes. So I was using that during that time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know each person's journey with this is different, but I'm so grateful to
Yeah.
have you share your experience because I know it's going to help others just to hear and be encouraged. And before we go, I wanted you to let everyone know your website so they
Okay.
can see the stories that you share.
Okay. Yes. Um, like I said, my company name, and I just like to say probably like it's a ministry that makes money, but it's actually a company. But because again, so much of this is not about making money, really. And it's not even about the t-shirts. It's truly about the messages that God gives me, the messages through other people's stories and their testimonies that God allows me to help them promote or share. So that's what Out of Hiding is about. And we can be found at www.outofhiding.live, Live. I like to say outofhiding.live. So it's like live out of hiding. So yes, www.outofhiding.live, Live. And you can see some of the messages that God has given me, that has been on my heart for this time in the world, and just in my life, and I pray that when people see the messages, they're like, oh, can recall a time where they felt that way, or, you know, just are encouraged by them, even if it's just to the point of laughter, like, oh, that's funny, you know, just whatever it is that they see will minister to them. Because like I said, it's more about the message than the stuff. The stuff doesn't even really matter.
Well, I didn't ask you this earlier, so I don't know if you're willing to share your shirt today.
Yes.
I like what you were wearing today, and
Yes.
wanted to
So
know
this
if you'd
is
show it.
my, and this is weird the way I'm showing it, but this is my love period shirt. Bolder, stronger, braver together, love period. And this was a shirt that God had given me May 5th. And it has been, it's just so much about this message has resonated in so many different areas in my life, in the world, you know, with COVID, you know, with the racial disharmony, with the division politically. Like, it's just so much that this message resonates. Like, okay, beyond opinions, we are bolder, stronger, braver together, but it's about love, period. So, yes. So, yeah, that's it.
Yes. So go to outofhiding.live or .live, whichever,
Yeah.
and order yours today. I am so glad, T, that we were able to do this today. And I'm going to end it here before my other earring falls off.
Oh, I didn't even notice. But thank you so much for the opportunity. And I just really appreciate you, and just our friendship, and how God continues to just cultivate us for what he has for us, and how he just continues to use us just how we are, for his glory. So I just appreciate you, and I'm so glad you're doing these videos. Like, that in and of itself is Jesus alone. So I'm grateful for you, and I love you.
Thank you. I love you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.